Welcome back, everybody, to Markonomics 101 presents Hoot Loot. We're the place you come to be informed, be amused, but never be misled. We had a little hiatus, a little bit of censorship. We hit a little too close to the truth. But today, you are going to hear more of the truth, and it's going to surprise the hell out of you, I guarantee you. Is another October crash imminent? That's what we're going to talk about, and a lot of people seem to think so, and it sure does seem to look that way to a lot of people right now. But we're going to show you some really interesting stats on that, and it surprised the hell out of me when I did. I learn when I look at these charts and I put them all together. So we're going to do that in a minute, and we're going to explain to you why the economy and the stock market are behaving so crazily. It is insane. So remember, is another October crash imminent? Please like and subscribe right down here, and we are going to be right back in just a minute with the charts. Welcome back, everybody. We're about to look at the charts, and if you were around in the 60s, you remember a movie called It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. It is a mad, 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 mad world. It is insane, and we're going to explain why it's insane. Behind me is the 1929 crash as it appeared in the papers. People were jumping out of buildings. They were leveraged like crazy. We had the roaring 20s where, shoe shine boys were giving tips, and that was one of the things. Everybody was in the market at the time, and basically it was just a matter of time before it fell apart. But we're going to show you something a little different today, because I've never seen anything like it. I doubt you have, unless you're an old and ancient like me, seen anything like it. So let's go to the first chart right here, and that's it's called banks vulnerable to high inflation causing weaker growth. Now, this chart, what it shows is that not only is the economy appearing to be robustly strong. Why? Because the shelves are empty, because you can't buy a used car, because everything is on back order, because everything is log jammed at ports, because everything can't make it by rail, because everything is bottlenecked everywhere, and they just keep throwing out those stimulus checks, which I, of course, never get, but they keep throwing them out. Now, what's interesting about that is that from some standpoint, it looks really crummy. I mean, you hear politicians talk about it, and boy, do I hate politicians. But when they talk about it, they talk about more stimulus, more stimulus, more stimulus. Well, you know what? Let's give them 20 volts up the butt. That's the only stimulus they should get. Now, what I want to do now is talk about the fact that what's happening is human behavior, okay? We've talked about how human behavior affects the movement of security prices in weird ways. If the price of oranges goes up, you buy fewer of them, all things being equal. That's behavior. But if stocks go up, the greed factor takes over, and all of a sudden you start buying stuff like crazy. So there's like more demand at higher prices for stocks than there's at lower prices, which is idiotic, but that's human behavior and irrational for you. Now, this thing is showing you something entirely different. We have empty shelves all over the place, all types of stuff. And you know where it is? It's being hoarded. If you were alive in the 1970s when there were gas lines and they put price controls on it, you know what people did then? They would line up at gas stations. Of course, it used to look like this. This was the kind of gas station, and since I'm a fossil, I thought I'd show it to you. But they'd line up just for 2 gallons, and they would keep as much in their cars as possible, even if they had to wait 2 hours just to get the 2 gallons of gas to top up. You could not get gas if your life depended on it in those days, but everybody had a full tank at all times. Same thing, people are hoarding food. They're hoarding food because there has been fear of food shortages. So what's happening is, instead of it being at the store level, it's at home. There's paper products like toilet paper being hoarded, you name it, everything. And that's going to cause a very weird bump in the economy, stocks, and how they act. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. But right here, what you see is that people, basically, there's a huge divergence between people's optimism about the economy and then, the economy itself. So we're going to go on from there and talk about it. I love Tesla because I call it the canary in the coal mine. And I got a question for Elon Musk. I always have a question for him. Here's my question. Elon, you spend, according to you, 120 hours a week, and this was in a prior episode, a prior show, which I'm sure you'd love. One of his 20 rules is you have to work 120 hours a week. You cannot take a weekend off because he does. Okay? You cannot work alone. You cannot disagree with them. You cannot go to the bathroom for more than 3 seconds. I mean, the guy's a tyrant, let's face it. But if he's really working 120 hours a week, how is he, where's he finding the time for the Boring Company, this Neuralink company, this utter preposterous trip to Mars, which will never take place? And he's now the richest man in the world and the richest con man in the world. I don't believe it. Let's see if karma holds. But I'll tell you this, he'd have to be working 180 hours a week if he were not lying through his teeth. And he is lying through his teeth. So, but Tesla is a terrific indicator of where the market's going, because this is speculative, stupid interest right here. It's about to make a new high. I never thought it would, but it is. And it just blows my mind. He loses money on every car. It's incredible. Now, here's Bitcoin. This is another canary in the coal mine. Don't want to talk about cryptos too much today. I've already talked about them, but please watch Bitcoin Bites Back. It'll tell you why it's a fraud. Why is Bitcoin making a new high? We said it never would make a new high again. It was done. But we were wrong about that one too. Please don't look at the last episode, because that's embarrassing. We got just about everything wrong. But Tesla, what's interesting about this one right here is that, Bitcoin, is that it still has no value. China has completely dropped the hammer on it, okay? And people are buying it. And the reason is, an exchange-traded fund came out today. The SEC approved Bitcoin as a security, as an investment, not a currency, as an investment. Oh my, it's a gamble. Okay, now if you look at this thing, Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world. And and he also owns Bitcoin too. So he's involved in every shady thing. Bitcoin is a password. It does not exist. To put it in an ETF is like putting it in a mutual fund. How many passwords can you put in an ETF? It is almost laughable that someone would buy this thing. What are you going to do with a bunch of packaged passwords that you can't retrieve? And also, they can trade in futures, and they can have lack of delivery problems, and this thing can bring the whole thing down. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to talk about it a little bit more, but the U.S. has actually legalized this for an ETF for exchange traded on the futures, while China, on the other hand, who has found out the truth, I think, if you even mention Bitcoin, you get sent to jail. Everything's illegal about Bitcoin, everything, because they got hoodwinked. They had the most miners. The miners are the people that use up all the electricity to create new Bitcoin. Now, it's kind of complicated, but they were mining. When we showed this in a prior show, they were mining 9 million a year or something like that, and the US 3. China will not mine any. So now all that pollution goes to the US. And I wonder, what do all those green warriors think of that? And Tesla's probably going to end up going to the US too, and that ain't as energy clean as people think. So it's really getting bizarre beyond belief. Now, I want to show you as a comparison. This is called Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. This is owned, or this was started by the famous Winklevoss brothers, who were Mark Zuckerberg, the humanitarian of the year. They opposed him. They claim to have created Facebook, but they did create this. They put it together. They're one of the largest holders. But notice it's not making a new high. Isn't that interesting? It's not making a new high because it does not, none of these things actually own Bitcoin. Not that you could own anything, you don't have a password. And I told you, I'm willing to sell you a password for $10,000, which is a hell of a bargain from the $60,000 or $50,000 you're going to end up paying. But it's worth nothing, folks. It's worth nothing, I'm telling you. The Dow Jones Industrials. Now, here's where we start getting surprised. There's going to be no October crash, all right? That was just kind of a title, and I'm telling you right now, the market looks so healthy, I can't believe it. I seriously look at this thing, and like the Dow's in a bull flag, and I don't understand it. And I'm telling you, when the hoarding starts becoming liquidation of inventories, the economy will start to tumble, and we very well may see the crash then. But if I look at this chart right now, we're in for a big move up, believe it or not. And now, so I got to eat crow again. Thank God I don't have any. And, I mean, let's face it, people get these things wrong. I mean, it's not like I have a crystal ball or anything. We can't predict the future. I do have my magic 8 ball, actually my magic 9 ball, but it's never been very helpful. So I'm going to ask it. Is market going up? Yes, I know I was wrong about everything. Shut up. This is the meanest damn thing. It's inanimate, but it's meaner than hell. I don't like that thing. Anyway, so what is happening? The Dow looks good. It's breaking out to new highs. I literally believe that this is now, people do not understand what they're buying, and they're just buying to buy. They're going broke. The government is making them go broke. They're not working. They don't want to go to work. They're basically refusing to work. And so this thing is going to new highs. Go figure. Oops. Now we got S&P small caps. Look at that. Beautiful pattern, bull flag. Look like it's going to break up too. And a lot of these are biotech companies. And boy, is it a good business for the medical business these days. And I just might become a doctor. I've been thinking about it. Would you please say, ah? And then I'll give you a jab. And I'll give you 2 jabs. I'll give you 3 jabs if you want. But they make so much money off of this, it's not funny. Pfizer alone is making $40 billion a year. What a gift. Did you ever figure a pandemic? And it's not, who knows what is going on. I'm not even going to comment. But do you believe that a flu is so profitable? I never would have guessed it in a million years. Anyway, let's keep going here. Dow Jones Transportations. Now, these are actually a pretty good indicator of economic strength, of the economy and economic strength. They started to break down, and now they're breaking up again. So I got to just say, we're in for a probable bull leg up, a strong one, but I don't know for how long, because I do believe within a couple month period, maybe 3, the inventory buildup that's been going on is not going to go on anymore, because those food shortages are not going to materialize, or they're not going to need to hoard more. Once you stop hoarding, then the supplies become normal. Then once you liquidate the hoarding, you stop buying. That's what happened. See, oil companies made money in the 1970s when price controls were levied on oil. They would put oil in tankers. Tankers were just circling the oceans, constantly, because they hoarded it. They knew it would eventually go up. It was $3 a gallon then, back in those days, back in the good old days. I remember paying 33 cents a gallon. Okay, now can you get it for less than like 4 or 5? No. And I'm telling you, people hoard it, and when it becomes unhoarded and they start liquidating it, it goes the other way, and there are no buyers. And that's what's going to happen here. Just watch. S&P 500 still looking good. I thought it had broken down. New high on that too. And the S&P 500 is just, again, all the charts look good. Every single one. It's not even that one looks bad. They all look good. US dollar, here's another one. This chart should be upside down. Okay, I mean, seriously, I look at it and I go, I ought to flip it this way, because that's the way it should be going. When you sit there and you have a $3 trillion stimulus bill, and the Fed spending $120 billion a month to keep rates low, I don't know how the dollar stays up like this. The only thing I could ever guess, and I've guessed this before, is that it's just less a piece of crap than the other currencies. Who knows? But this is not good. It is not nearly as good as what we're making, which is the fabulous hoot coin right here, which is going to be a work of art. This is coming out. We are coming out with some amazing stuff, let me tell you. All right, so we're going to move on here from the dollar. This one just, I don't know what to say. Now, this, I've never shown these charts before, but they're very indicative, and these actually make sense, okay? This is the CBOE, the Chicago Board Option Exchange. It is now owned by investors, publicly traded. They used to have what were called specialists. Specialists were private, like partners, that made a market in a particular security. So they would have a book of buyers, a book of sellers, and they'd match the two. Of course, that gave them an advantage, and they went to the bank on that. You can bet that they knew who was selling and who was buying, and they front ran them. They can't do that so much anymore, but who knows? But look at this thing, a parabolic uptrend, and it's broken out from a bull flag, and that tells you these markets are strong. Whether you are bearish as all hell, a perma bear like I used to be, or I still am, just a wrong one. It's going up. Now watch this. This is called ICE. This is not the immigration. So don't go running. Okay, don't go running. This is not the immigration people. ICE is called the Intercontinental uh, Holding, and it's the owner of the New York Stock Exchange. Again, you used to have partners on the NYSE, and the partners would make markets, and they always had an advantage, and they always made money, and then they sold, and it's now publicly traded. But look at it. It's just broken out to new highs. How can the exchange be going to new highs if the market's about to go crashing? It ain't going to happen. And this thing is as solid of a piece of evidence as I can show you, except for this one coming up. Oh, actually, I must have put it in the wrong place, but we'll get to it. There's one at the NASDAQ too, and that thing is going like that. 3-month T-bills. Now, this is where the Federal Reserve has got a real problem, because 3-month T-bills, the rates are still at 0 to 0.25%, according to Jay Powell. But if you actually see how they're trading, they went up all the way to about 65 basis points a couple weeks ago. So whether he likes it or not, whether he's going to keep rates low or not, whether he claims inflation is low or not, the markets are saying, you liar, you. Okay? And I'm going to say the same thing. You are as full of it as me, and that's a lot of full of it. He's probably even more full of it than me. So we're going to go 5 years, broken out to new highs. Okay, now they're talking about the last Fed meeting. The first prediction of an official interest rate rise was going to not happen till 2022 December. It's now 2022 June. How about next meeting, guys? How about next meeting? All right? Because this thing, once this genie gets out of the bottle, I mean, it's out of the bottle. That's all. You can't unring the bell. 10-year Treasury bills, they had a little correction, but they're now starting to move up, and the market seems to love it. But you know what? When you have inflation that is really around the 8-10% range, and you have this going on, only the U.S. government is so stupid as to buy these and to force them on poor, unwitting savers. There is no such thing as a good or bad interest rate. There's a normal one. It's a place where the marketplace comes together for borrowers and savers. What this does is it punishes you for saving. So you take more risk than you should, and then that's why you end up getting killed, and you end up having these speculative bubbles, because you have to take risk to earn a decent return, or you're going to lose 8% a year because of inflation. And of course, there's no inflation. What inflation? Never heard of it. All right, here's the 30. It's starting to break out too. This one is probably not as manipulated by the Fed, and so there's a little bit more support for this. But the yield curve is also doing what I've talked about in the past, which is it's flattening, meaning that the shorter rates are rising faster than the longer rates. That's called a flattening. When it's a steeper, meaning that the 30 is a lot higher than the 3-month T-bill, that's usually stimulative. It's usually good for banks. It's good for lending. They make a margin on it. Well, this is a flattening. This isn't good. All right? That's all I'm going to say. But these tend to lead. This is not a precise indicator as to timing. Treasury inflation protected securities. Now, this is one. It hasn't broken down at all. It's actually in a bull flag right now. This thing's about to take off. So when this thing takes off, you can bet your bottom dollar inflation is coming back, and the Fed can deny it all day long. And even cable news, the leading cause of mental illness, and it's a major cause of my mental illness, I'll tell you that. They just pretend it doesn't exist. It's so funny. They will all parrot the narrative. No, there's no inflation. The Fed's doing a great job. It's coming down. Blah 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 blah. Oh God, have you seen rents lately? Rents are up like 12% a year, 2 years in a row. Housing prices are up 12% 2 years in a row. Oil prices are up like crazy. Natural gas, we're going to show you some of this stuff coming up here. All right. Oh, here's the NASDAQ. I just had it in the wrong order. But look at this thing. This is the ownership of the NASDAQ exchange. And look at this thing, boom. How can you have a market go down when this is happening? You just can't. You know, this is the only thing that makes sense to me. Honestly, everything else is prakakt, as they say. I don't know who says that, but someone does. I do anyway. CRB Commodities Index continues to make new highs, and it's really being led by energy. There's a problem with energy right now, and the problem is this. To produce energy costs energy. In other words, once you make a barrel of oil, you got to transport it, you got to refine it, you got to drill it, all that stuff. So you don't really get a barrel of oil for every barrel of oil. You get a lot less. And so these things are going a lot higher. Shale is not competitive anymore because their costs are going up. I once said shale was competitive at 60. It no longer is. It's competitive around here, but it's not as competitive as it used to be that kept the price down. These are going up, and I don't know how high they're going up, but all I can tell you is this. We're going to have a lot of hoarding of this again, and we're going to see people hoard it to make sure that they don't get bitten by the price increases of oil. Light crude oil, here it is right here, $82 a barrel. I mean, unbelievable. We didn't think it'd go above 60, and it is just, you know, every single day it goes up. Every single day. Natural gas, here's another one. It's running out in Europe. Europe is going to have a cold winter. You just know it. You just know it's going to happen. And the Russians are among the largest producers of natural gas, and they're trying to hold on to it too. See, hoarding is a great thing when you control the supply. When you control the supply of something, you hoard it and you make people come to the table because it's supply inelastic. What that means in economic terms is that an increase in price does not produce an increase in supply that quickly. It takes months to years because you got to drill, you got to explore, you got to refine, you got to do all that stuff before you can actually get it on the marketplace. So it's very supply inelastic. That's what inelastic means. It's not just my underwear that's inelastic today. It is the supply of oil. It's always been, and natural gas, always been inelastic. Corn. Now, this is interesting because corn is a major component of sugar, and sugar is a major component of food prices. I'm not quite sure what's going on with corn, so I'm not going to make an opinion right now, but I just thought it was an interesting chart when all of the other food prices are going up and it's costing more, and basically the hoarding's going on. Procter & Gamble raised prices. Costco raised prices. Almost every retailer is raising prices, and and what they're doing is they're blaming raising prices on something going wrong with the business. But they're still showing great profits. Today, 60 S&P companies have reported, and only 3 missed estimates. I wonder how that happened. You know, it's so wonderful when you can just create your own P&L. You know, fudge factors. Let's see. I'll call fudge factors 20 million this month. What else happened? We had a bathroom flood. Yeah, that was another 20 million. They always make their numbers because they reduce their numbers just before they announce them, and the analysts go right along with it. Oh, they beat their numbers. No, they didn't. They didn't come close to beating their numbers as they were a year ago, but they did a month ago. And they just guide them lower and guide them lower and guide them lower, and the analysts are only too happy to be accomplices. Copper miners, now the metals are not doing very well. And here's where the inventory thing starts coming into play. I think there's been an inventory build in copper, and who could blame anybody for doing that? Copper went up 800% last year. Of course you'd want an inventory. Of course you'd want one. And so it's human nature to build one, but then once you build one, there's no demand. And so copper's coming back down, but it's broken back up, and prices are going up, and this thing's going to continue, I think. Rio Tinto is one of the biggest companies in all kinds of metals, base metals, and this one's also coming up. Here's platinum. Platinum's actually going down. That's not doing very well. The metals are not doing well. The metals are not doing well. And that's what's weird. Food is doing well. Energy's doing well. The metals are not doing well. Platinum, palladium, same thing. And who would have guessed it with palladium? Look at that. This thing has been creamed. I mean, it's just been creamed. And then, of course, we've got our friend gold. Gold is actually hanging in there okay, but it should be like another $300 to $500 an ounce higher. But we all know that we can't stand the thought of gold actually being at market prices, because then the Fed would have to admit they're doing a lousy job. And gold would be the indicator. They're the thermometer that says, you suck. But here's a 20-year chart of gold, and it actually is a very nice pattern. This thing is a long-term hold, but I would not take a chance on it right now because it's just too much going on, too much uncertainty. But you need to see this to put it in context. Alcoa, an aluminum producer, still going up. Okay, they make cans, and cans are food products, and people are hoarding food. So here you go. This is why Alcoa is doing well. Now the housing market's not doing as well because they're the ones that use all the copper, and the copper is going to be used, but there's a shortage of housing. I don't know how. I don't know how. Our population isn't growing. We're all getting killed being jabbed. So I don't know. And now we've got BHP Group, BHP Billiton, another huge international metals producer, and it's going down. And look at this. This is part of the science of charting. I want to show you this. This is a rounded top. We've shown you this in other shows before, and the distance between the top and the horizontal red line, that would be 75 minus 64, or $53. That's our target. Once we break the red line, we have an $11 downside target. We hit it perfectly. It doesn't work all the time, but it's a very good rule of thumb, and it's another lesson. Don't stay in a position too long. Today I've had a great time with y'all, and we're going to see you next Saturday. And please like and subscribe down here, and we will see you next week.